Let's find out about a type of Japanese sword guard that you probably didn't know about. Hi folks, Matt Easton here of Scholar Gladiator and Eastern Antique Arms, and in that capacity I occasionally deal in Japanese weapons. It's not my specialism at all, but I'm trying to learn more as I go along, and I've got this beautiful example of a 16th century in handachi mounts here, katana. Now, I've done videos in the past talking about Tsuba. Now, the Tsuba is the handguard that you will know, whether it's from anime or movies or indeed from antiques, genuine ones, that this is a handguard that you find on a Japanese sword, and it has a roughly disc shape. They come in actually a variety of different shapes. Some of them are a solid plate like this, some of them have a certain number of holes or perforations in them, some of them are entirely full of holes, and indeed there are some weird and wonderful ones out there. And there are people in the world who just collect Tsuba. They don't collect the rest of the sword, they're not even particularly interested in weapons, they just collect the Tsuba, because in period a lot of great artists used the Tsuba for a handguard, be it for a katana or a tachi or a wakizashi or whatever, tanto. They used it as an art form. So there were some really, in fact, that we know there were some Tsuba were never actually mounted onto weapons. They were just made as beautiful things, kept as beautiful things in a box, and never actually put on a weapon. But when we're talking on channels like this about this as a handguard, a lot of people note that this indeed is quite small, certainly compared to European handguards. If I grab, for example, a 19th century sabre here, it's got a big old handguard designed to protect the hand. And that's partly because of the way that these swords are used. With a katana, we have a very hard and very sharp, but also very brittle edge. So a blade contact between the edges is perhaps avoided a little bit more than in European swordsmanship. We defend, we parry, we beat in slightly different ways in Japanese swordsmanship, aka kenjutsu, than we would do in European fencing, or indeed in Chinese martial arts as well, incidentally. But nevertheless, these disc sort of guards, which probably come around, disc guards in general, around 1000 AD, and we already find them on Japanese swords by about 1000 AD, and Chinese swords incidentally as well. Now, a lot of people, as I say, mention that these are small. That's because they're not necessarily used in the same way of fencing as European swords are, so they don't need to protect your hand that much. And to some extent, they are there to protect your hand to some extent, but to some extent they are to just there to prevent your hand from going onto the blade, of course. But they do provide some protection. They do provide some hand protection, certainly. But these are smaller than the disc guards we find on lots of Chinese swords. Now, why did I make this video? Well, quite simply, I was looking at the internet the other day, and I discovered a whole new type of Japanese sword Tsuba or handguard that I didn't even vaguely know about at all. So here I am going to share it with you. That is the wangata Tsuba. Now, I'm sure I'm not pronouncing that correctly, but it's wangata, or just one as some people call it. And essentially this is a domed Tsuba. So most of the Tsubas I've encountered in the antique collecting world and you know, seen in books and this kind of stuff are fundamentally flat, to mostly, okay? But these wangata Tsuba are domed. So what defines them is being a domed Tsuba, and they're super, super interesting. I just find it very interesting that they are a whole kind of species of themselves, if you want to call them that, of Tsubas that are domed. But what alerted me to this particular subset of Tsuba, which are domed, the wangata Tsuba, is this example that you're seeing on your screens now. This is absolutely insane. Now, some people have pointed out this possibly didn't start its life out as a Tsuba or as a handguard for a sword. Possibly it was a jingasa helmet, possibly a child-sized one. There's all sorts of theories abound. But fundamentally, you can clearly see from the hole put through the center that this was at some point mounted on a sword. Somebody made the somewhat crazy decision to use this as a handguard, which I find absolutely hilarious, of course, because not only is it monstrously huge, but by Japanese standards, and way, way bigger than a normal Tsuba, which are relatively small, usually only between about 60mm and 90mm in general. But this one is absolutely monstrously huge, not by the just by the standards of Japanese swords, but by the standards of any swords out there. Even in Europe, this would, you know, if you compare this to something like a cup hilt rapier, or indeed some of the large Chinese dao, which have large disc guards on them, this is absolutely crazy. So there we go. Nothing more to say about it than that. I think the background to this, it's possibly votive. In other words, sort of perhaps ceremonial or an offering. Perhaps it was originally coupled with a monstrously huge blade in a temple. We don't know. And so there you can see it on screen. So credit to tetsugendo.com's post. This is their Facebook page you're looking at here. This is copyright. All of these images are copyright of them. I'm sharing them here. I'll put the link below to their Facebook page to give complete credit to where it's come from. I just thought you'd like to see this crazy, crazy thing. Maybe someone out there watching this video can illuminate us more in the comments on this type of both the typical domed, the smaller domed types of Tsuba, or indeed what this crazy thing might be. Do you know of any other examples which are even comparable to this? Do you know of any other Japanese sword guards which come even close to this in size? I don't think I've ever seen one, although some people in the comments on that tetsugendo.com Facebook page say that they have seen other examples, but let's see. So I'd be fascinated to know. Did you know about this? Did you know about the domed one? Did you know about the huge one? Do you know of any other examples? I have been Matt Easton. I will of course continue to be, and I'll look forward to seeing you on the channel really soon. Cheers folks! Thanks for watching. We've got extra videos on Patreon. Please give our Facebook a like and subscribe if you haven't already. Cheers folks!